Okay, I'm going to explain the second page again. So it says the geometric mean is the length of the altitude. In this picture, the altitude is BD. That's your altitude. So the altitude, and it says geometric mean, which means we're going to square it, is equal to the two lengths of the segments. And the segments are the segments of the hypotenuse, which is AD times DC. Now, the way I write this is I would say altitude squared is equal to segment times the other segment is how I would explain it. Okay, so let's look at the example. So this is the altitude is your x, so it's x squared is equal to 8 times 12. And then you would do 8 times 12 and get 96. And then you do the square root of 96. Now, you're not going to put that in the calculator once you leave your answer with rads. And so you take your 96, divide it by 2. Oh, goodness, I wish y'all were here because I don't have my calculator. And y'all usually help me out on this. So, 96 divided by 2. I wish Child was here so he could tell me what this is. He's usually on the ball. 96 divided by 2 is 48. Okay, 48 divided by 2 is 24. Divided by 2 is 12. Divided by 2 is 6. Divided by 2 is 3. So a set of twos. These guys, they stay home. So 2 times 2 is 4, so it's 4 rad. So x is 4 rad 6. Okay? All right, let's look at the next one. The next one, we're looking for the altitude again, but we know the whole hypotenuse, and so we need this other segment, which is 37 minus 5, which is 32. So we're going to say x squared, which is our altitude, is the segment, which is 32 times 5. So 32 times 5 is 160. 160 divided by, take the square root of 160. You do the factor tree. Divided by 2 is 80. Divided by 2. Divided by 2. Divided by 2. Divided by 2. Okay, so 2 2's get to come out, so it's 4, and then 10 stays at home. So you kind of get the gist of it. The next one is a little more complicated because the x is a segment, but the altitude is 18, so you say 18 squared is equal to 15 times x. And then you would end up dividing by 15. So I'd put my calculator 18 squared divided by 15, and I would get x is equal to 21.6. So the next one is, I would do it, there's just multiple ways to do this one right here. I'm going to start doing it one way, and then we can talk about it another way. So 21, we're going to square it, and then the whole thing is x. And one of the segments is 30. This segment's 30. I don't know this one, but the one I don't know could be x minus 30. So I could say times x minus 30. And then I would start doing the math there. 21 squared is 441. And then I would say 30x minus 900. And then I would use algebra to finish solving that. I need a calculator. So 900 plus 441 is 1,341 divided by 30. And you get 44.7. So x is 44.7. If you look at the notes that are completed by the textbook, they do theirs a little bit differently. They decide to call this y. I'll do it in blue. So they decide to call that y. And then, but then they end up having to do a little extra math at the end to find x. They have to actually do y. To find x, they have to do y plus 30 to find x, but they'll do y, so they'll set it up 22 or 21 squared is equal to y plus 30. So subtract over the 30, and so you do 21, let's see, 21 squared minus 30, and they get 411. Oh, I think I messed this up. Let me go back. Yeah. I was doing the whole thing. So it's y is a segment and 30 is a segment. There we go. But you're going to divide by 30 instead of, I was just looking at what I had above. So 21 squared divided by 30. And you get 14.7, which is not the answer. That is just y. But then you could go back to where, right here we said y plus 30. So you add 30. And that will get me x, which is 44.7. So I like it this way. I prefer that, but that's me. If you want to do it the other way, that's fine. Okay, the next one is focused on the legs. So let's just kind of label our triangle again. We kind of review this. This is a leg, this is a leg, this is the altitude. These are segments of the hypotenuse. And then we have our whole hypotenuse. So those are our pieces. The problem says the length of the leg of a triangle is the geometric mean. So the leg of the triangle would be like AB. So we would square that. And it's the length of the segment adjacent to the hypotenuse. This is adjacent. So that would be AD times, and it says the whole hypotenuse, which is AC. And if you did the other leg, it would be BC squared is equal to, and notice the segment of BC is DC, and it'd be DC times AC. The way I like to write this is I say leg squared is equal to the adjacent segment times the hypotenuse. Okay, so let's work this problem right here. So we have to practice. X happens to be a leg. This is a leg. We're solving for the x leg. So x squared is equal to the adjacent segment is 24. And then the whole hypotenuse is 26. And so we multiply those and we get 1624. And then take the square root, which requires us to do the factor tree. Ugh, fun. It's not 1624, it's just 624. So factor tree divided by 2, you get 3, 1, 2. Divided by 2, it goes over 1 time. Remainder of 1, that goes 5 times. Need a calculator. So I'll be wasting my time here. Divided by 2. Oops. 171. 171 divided by 2. Oh yeah, that should have been 14. Let me go back to my little system of doing this. It's kind of been a while since I've done this. So it goes 1 time and you have a remainder of 1. Yeah, I have the wrong number here. 3, 12 divided by 2. So it goes 1 time with the remainder of 1, that's 11. So it goes 5 times. I was doing that right with a remainder of 1 and 6. So 156. Do the factor tree again. 2 will go into 15. 7 times with the remainder of 6 and 8. Divided by 2 again. 78 divided by 2 is 39. 39 is not even anymore. Divided by 3 is 1 and 13. So a 2 comes out, a 2 comes out, which is 4, and then 13 and 3 stay home. So that's how you go about that. Let's look at the next. This is a leg. So leg squared is equal to the segment adjacent to that leg. We don't know that. It's 12 minus 7 is 12 minus 7 is 5. And so you're going to do 5 times 7, which is 30. Oh, times the whole hypotenuse. It's the adjacent times the whole hypotenuse. 12. So that's 60. And then take the square root. 60 divided by 2 is 30. Divided by 2 is 15. 5 and 3. So a 2 comes out. So simplify that. That's 2. We're at 15. Okay, so we just keep going. We're going to get through this. Last 2. Okay, look at this. This is maxed out. This is as hard as it gets. You have 3 variables to solve for. Okay, we're going to need to make some room to get this problem done. Now, let's talk about this. There's a lot of things I can't start with. Okay, so I'm going to point out some stuff. If I do this leg, I need to know this. Okay, which that's going to give me 2 variables because I'm going to have a z squared is equal to, and this would be 24 minus x, so I can't start with this. Okay, if I try to do the altitude, I need to know this and this. I can't do that. But if I do this one, so this is a leg, we're not looking for that, but I could find that. And if I could find that, then I could solve the rest. And then I would be able to find that. So that's the direction we're going to go. Okay, so we're going to do 27 squared is equal to, that's the leg, this is the adjacent segment, 24 times, I don't know, x, y, z, maybe p, how much should it be there? Okay, so I'm going to solve for, it's the leg, actually it's times the whole hypotenuse. So I don't need to know that. I'll find that p though. I'll have to find that. The whole hypotenuse, which is x. So if I divide over by 24, I can find the whole hypotenuse. So 27 squared divided by 24 is 30.375. So x is 30.375. That's this, 30.375. So if I do that number minus 24, I will get 6.375 for that side. Now, if you look at your sheet, they rounded it to the nearest tenth to, I think, 6.4. Is that what they did? Yes. But I will probably, you could just leave it as that. It's just as easy to leave it as that. Okay, so now we can actually solve for z or y. It doesn't matter which one you pick. So I'm going to do z since it's another leg problem. So z squared is equal to the adjacent segment, which is 3.375, times the whole hypotenuse, which we know what that is now, 30.375. And you could do it like your paper. Your paper did 3.4 here, or 6.4 here, and they did 30.4. So you're welcome to do that too. And then so multiply those and take the square root. And you get z, which is 13.9. Now to find y is an altitude. So an altitude, y squared, is equal to the 2 segments, square root. So we'll do 6.4 and 24. So those are the 2 segments of the hypotenuse. Take the square root. Y is equal to, and in this case that would be 12.4. Okay, so that is that. So you just can't automatically start on what you think you're going to start with. Let's look at, I can't solve for this leg because I don't know the segment. I can't solve for this leg because I don't know the whole hypotenuse, it would be x plus 20. So, but I can use this altitude and solve for it, because I'd have an 8, and then I would have only one variable. So that's where I'm going to start. So I'm going to erase what I have here and just work it. All right, so I'm going to start with the altitude. So altitude is 8 squared is equal to the segment times 20, and then divide by 20. 64 divided by 20, and solve for x. So 64 divided by 20 is 3.2. And so I'm going to write that down. So I can have it 3.2. That makes the whole thing be 25.2. Let's see, 23.2. I don't know why it's not erasing. Okay. So 23.2. I don't know why I said 25. Okay. Right. So now I can solve for either one of them. Let's just go ahead and do z. Z is a leg. Leg squared is equal to the adjacent segment, which we know now is 3.2, over the whole hypotenuse, which we now know is 23.2. And take the square root of that, put it in your calculator, take the square root, and for z, you get 8.6. Okay, then when you're solving for y, y is a leg. The adjacent segment for the leg is 20, and then the whole hypotenuse is 23.2. And take the square root, y is equal to, you should have got 21.5. So that is how you do the back page. This is specifically for the ones that weren't here, or the ones who, this is a hard lesson, the ones who need a review and don't know how to do this. So here you go.